learning the Maimer and Parshas Tazria on page, these pamphlets on page 5. The first Maimer, the first two Maimarim, short Maimarim, the Alter Rebbe talks about the beginning of the Parsha. Isha ki Tazria v'yolda zacher, and the Chazal are medayik that Isha ki Tazria, there's in the process of bearing a child, so you have both. You have the Isha and the Ish, the man and the woman, and each one of them contribute. As the Gemara says in Nida, the Gemara says that the loivin, the contribution of each one. So the Gemara describes it as the loivin and the oidim, the white and the red. So the white comes from the father, and the oidim, the red, comes from the mother. So this is each one contribute. I'm not talking about science. I'm talking about Pashat. The way Torah looks at it, the way Chazal look at it. So each one has a contribution, a involvement, as it says, shloisha shutfim. The Eibishter gives the neshama and the body of the soul of the person. But the body is between the father and the mother. That's each one has their contribution, the loivin and the edim. So what determines whether it's going to be a zachar and a keva, a male or a female? So what comes first? If the loivin comes first, means that the father's the contributing first, then it's in a keva. If the oidim comes first, if the mother, then it's a zachar. So the Alter Rebbe in the first two Amarim explain the idea of zachar and nekeva is zachar is the inyan of chesed, and nekeva is the inyan of gvura. Alter Rebbe brings different rayas.
5.
So and that itself, in other words, in after determining itself, which one is the inyan of zachar, which one is in of nekeva. So then it determines, depending on what comes first, which one is the one that's dominant. So in order, b'chlal, that there should be able to be, the truth is the Alter Rebbe says that in order that there should be able to be a yichud, a unification between two things, like it says, Isa Shalom B'mreimav, or over here we're talking about a yichud of ish and isha, of a man and a woman. Or when we talk about it in spheres, so the yichud between ava and yira, chesed and gvura. So in order for that to happen, if each one would remain in its full intensity, then you would never be able to have both. They wouldn't be able to come together. So in order for them to become together, so you have to have from the chesed. It can't be the intensity of the chesed. What's the opposite of the intensity of the chesed? Is the gvura sheba chesed. And what's the opposite of the intensity of the gvura? The chesed sheba gvura. Is b'meila, being that in order for them to come, for the chesed and gvura to come together, it has to be the dominant factor in each one has to be what's most similar to the one that is to the one that it's connecting with. So b'meila, if the zachar is dominant, So he says, what does it mean the Zachar is dominant in the union? So we've already established the union can come about only because what part of the Zachar is being Misyachet is the Gvura Shebechesed. Because if it's the Chesed Shebechesed, then it wouldn't be able to because it's too intense. So if the Gvura Shebechesed is dominant, he says what was kumteis, then it's an Akeva. That's why if the Ish is dominant, then it's an Akeva that comes about through that union. If the Isha is dominant, so what does it mean the Isha is dominant? If it's the Gvura should be Gvura, so then she wouldn't be able to have the union. Elamai, it has to be the Chesed should be Gvura. Chesed is the union of Zachar. So if the Isha is dominant, meaning to say that it has to be the Chesed of the Gvura. And Memele, it's a Zachar in that union. Okay? So that's what the Alter Rebbe gives us that map, Kaviyachal, that to explain the idea of Isha. What we learned in the beginning of the Parsha, Isha ki Tazria. He says the Isha, when she is the Tazria, when she is the dominant one, then in this shutfus of Levin and Edim, so she's the dominant one. So then it's a Zachar, because that is required. What part of the Ashba? It's the Chesed should be Gvura. So that's the Maimarim, the two short Maimarim that we have before. Now in this Maimer, so the Alter Rebbe will give more in detail explanation and in depth the idea of the Zachar and Nekeva. And how it is in Avedis Hashem, serving the Eibishter. So says Tashis v'sagel ha'akara, the kibbutz banel is seicha b'simcha. Mashiach comes. We say this is connected. This maimer is connected with the chasana. It wasn't said on Parshas Tazria. But the Maimer explains these inyanim, the inyanim of Zachar and Nekeva was said by a chasana of the Alter Rebbe's, of the Mittler Rebbe's son. This is the Alter Rebbe's grandson. In the year Tavkuf Ayin Beis, which is 1812. So what does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, "Sois tasis." So she will rejoice when Mashiach will come. The Akara, the one that couldn't have children, couldn't bear children, will rejoice. The kibbutz banel l'seicha b'simcha. The rejoicing will be b'kibbutz banel, by having children. Her children will be gathered, meaning she'll have children, and that's the cause of simcha. So the word tasis, like we said before, you have the inyan of Zachar and Nekeva. So the word tasis can either be masculine or be feminine. If it's depending on if it's second person or third person. So second person tasis. Let's see the Alter Rebbe says. Ha'alef, in the b'milas tasis yesh beis pirushim. There's two meanings in the word tasis. Ha'alef lashon poel emet, v'koyel ha'akara. That the akara herself, she will rejoice. V'tasis lashon nekeva. So the tasis then in this context is lashon nekeva. Shahakara tasis ba'atzma, she herself will rejoice. V'sagel b'kibbutz banel, and be happy b'kibbutz banel, with the children, the gathering of your children. V'habeis, Lashon Poel Yetze. So Poel Leimin means what's happening to the person himself, or Poel Yetze is the Pula, the effect that it's having on someone else. So Va'abei is Lashon Poel Yetze v'Kol HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That the Eibishter, the pasuk is saying, he's saying to the Eibishter, in second person, Ata tasis es ha'akara. Umemela hitagel. So you will make rejoice the akara. And the Tzemach Tzedek adds, Ki neichach l'zachar, he brings, this is a klal, a rule in diktuk, that neichach l'zachar, he shaveh, lashon nekeva, nisteres kidra. So second person in zachar, when you say ata tasis, which is second person in zachar, and lashon zachar, when it's talking about a male, is equal and same to the lashon, to tasis, if it's in a keva, if it's talking in feminine, but in third person. So if it's second person, then it's referring to a zachar. If it's third person, it's referring to nekeva. In this pasuk, we see both pirushim, both the lashon zachar and nekeva. So we need to understand this pasuk. What do we need to understand? Like the Alter Rebbe says, now let's understand that both pirushim, both whether it's lashon zachar, lashon nekeva. So the Alter Rebbe says first we need to understand more, a general point in the pasuk, the inyan of v'sagal, the second part of it, the pasuk, where it says v'sagal hakara b'kibbutz b'nei. We're saying that she's rejoicing. Why? Because there's an ingathering of children. But if she's an akara, if she's barren, she doesn't have children. So where is the children coming from? Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the pashtus, the pshat is that she was an akara, and now she was barren, and now she has children. But the lashon of the bracha is that we're still calling, the akara is rejoicing. So we're still calling her akara. We're still calling her barren. So the Alter Rebbe explains this inyan in Avodas Hashem. These two inyanim. So v'inyan ki ein amar azal pasuk isha ki sazia v'yal zachar isha mazas tchila yilad zachar ish mazia tchila yilad nekeva. So these are the two. This is from the parsha, the idea that if the isha, as we started out in the beginning, if the isha contributes first, so then it's a zachar. If the isha is contributing first, like we said, the loivin and the edim, so then it's in a keva. So lahav and zeh b'avodas Hashem. So now that, like we said, the Alter Rebbe is going to be ma'arich. He's going to elaborate the idea, this idea. What is a zachar? What is a nekeva? He explains it in Avodas Hashem. Hine noida sheknesses Yisrael nikras b'shem isha. VaHaKadosh Baruch Hu nikra b'shem ish, which goes by Yemahu Tiki Ishi. So by Yemahu Tiki Ishi, so the ish and isha refers to in Pnimis and Yanim, refers to the Eibishter and the Yidden. V'hinei kamei shebi ish v'isha derech mashal. Ish hamazas tchilei that zachar. So just like in the mashal, by ish v'isha b'gashmis. So if the ish contributes first, then it's a zachar. So kach in b'knesses Yisrael HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the same is true. K'she'isha knesses Yisrael mazas tchila. When the isha is the one that contributes first, what does it mean that she contributes first in the nimshal in Avodas Hashem? So this refers to the Sirusa Lasata. This is the arousal from below, meaning where does the initiation come from? The initiation comes from the Aveda Milamata Lamayla, the Chinas Velishich Chukasech. If it says, Velishich Chukasech, the Chuka, the yearning is to Ishech, to your husband, which is the Eibishter. So that yearning is coming from below. Shehu inyan anikra b'lashon HaKabbalah b'shem Allah Asman. In the language of in the Kabbalah language, Kabbalistic language, that's Allah Asman, Mayim Nukve. That's feminine water, meaning to say that the halah is from the recipient. The recipient is initiating the relationship, the beginning. So in the connection between, just like we said, Ba'ish v'isha, so the begashmis. So you have both are contributing. It's both the ish and the isha. The only question is who initiates first, and that becomes the dominant one. And where do you see? How do you measure that? It becomes the dominant one. That's what you see, the result of that union. So both are connecting. It's not that one is present. So in other words, in the mashal of Avodas Hashem, so when a yid has a sarusa de lasata, a yearning, an arousal from below, so also there's an arousal from above, from the Eibishter. The Baal Shem Tov says that it says in the Gemara that there's different kruzim, different heavenly voices that make announcements, that make that make certain statements that to describe. It laments on the fact that the children are not learning Torah, etc. And shuvu banim to do tshuva. So the Baal Shem Tov explains what's the point of these heavenly cries. If the neshama doesn't hear it anyway, what's the point? If the person doesn't hear it, rather. So the Baal Shem Tov says that the neshama does pick up that cry. Even in other words, how do you see that? You see that when a person is mitamol, all of a sudden he's aroused to do tshuva. That arousal is coming to do tshuva is not coming from a cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting that the person makes within himself, and as a result of that, he comes to the conclusion that he needs to do tshuva. It's coming milamayla. It's coming from above. So that's an example. This explanation of the Baal Shem Tov on the kruzim that come from above. That's an example of milamayla lamata. That's the meaning of mayim tchurin. That's the masculine waters, meaning to say that who is initiating the connection, the relationship between the Eibishter and the Yid, and that's coming milamayla. That's coming from the Ish. Or at times, the initiation comes from the Isha, meaning to say milamata lamayla. It comes from the person who makes a cheshbon nefesh, and he feels lost, he feels distant, and therefore he wants to come closer. So both, whether the initiation begins from the ish, in other words, milamayla lamata, like for example these kruzim, these heavenly announcements that come from above, or whether it comes from the milamata lamayla, from the person himself, the result is the same. Meaning to say, the result is the fact that they both come together. There's a union that's taking place. So what's the difference between who initiates, whether it comes milamayla lamata or milamata lamayla? So sometimes it says in Chassidus that the difference is when it talks about what is the outcome of this connection. the outcome of this connection is a level of ava, of love and fear that we have of the Eibishter. In other words, the outcome of the relationship that comes about is this ava. But if we said Yiled is Zachar, Yiled is Nekeva, so the one who initiates the relationship, that is the dominant factor in the result of in other words, the children that we're referring to in Avodas Hashem is the emotion that is developed, that is the outcome of that relationship. So if the initiation comes milamayla lamata, it comes from the Zachar, it comes from the Eibishter. So so then, what's the result of that? Then it's Yiledus Nekeva. The Nekeva is the Gemara says Nashim Daitan Kalis. The women they're easily swayed, which is understood to mean in this context that it doesn't hold root, it doesn't hold steadfast. What is produced as a result of this relationship is something that is fleeting and will disappear. As opposed to if the dominant factor is the Isha, meaning to say it's milamata lamayla, it's coming from below, coming from the arousal, the yearning that takes place, then the outcome of that union is a zachar. Right? Which means what's produced is an ava, is a love which is steadfast, which is strong, doesn't waver. That's what it says in other places. Over here, the Alter Rebbe is not going to talk about that particular. In other words, there the determining factor is if it's something that lasts or it doesn't last. And that's also understood in a logical sense. When something comes free, and something comes without working for it, it goes fast. They marvel at the fact that all these people that won the lottery, the next not too long afterwards, they're back to not only they're back to where they were, but many times they're far. They mamish are even in a worse matziv. In other words, when it comes without avodah, when you don't work for it, so then it's something that doesn't last. It's obviously not the case all the time. It's a mashal, but in general, when we work for something, you make a keli, you work to attain something. So then, when you finally attain it, then it's something which is which becomes part of you, as opposed to if it's just given to you unsolicited. We see that b'muchash. So that's what it explains other places in Chassidus. Over here, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain this idea of Zachar and Nekeva. In other words, the outcome of this union between the Ish and Isha, between the Eibishter and the Yidden. In other words, whether or not it's Milamayla Lamata or Milamata Lamayla, it's not whether it has kiyum or not, but the level of love that is being produced from that union. There is the level of love that is being produced, which is called from the union, which the dominating factor is the Zachar, or if the dominating factor is the Nekeva. So if it's Milamayla Lamata, so then it produces a lower level of Ava, which it's called Ava Zuta, small Ava. And then if it's coming from Milamata Lamayla, it's coming from the person who's initiating the relationship. So then, what the outcome of that union is Ava Rabba, a great love. The Alter Rebbe will explain the difference between Ava Zuta, a small love, and a great love. Okay, that's an Nekuda. The Alter Rebbe is going to say. Dahainu, Shemeledes bechinas ava b'neshamis Yisrael, shebechinas tchar. So that's the, Alter Rebbe is explaining this idea. Yeledes Zachar, what does it mean Yeledes Zachar? And also Yeledes Nekeva, the Yeledes, what's the outcome, that what's being produced, Alter Rebbe is teaching, is explaining that that's the Ava that the Neshamas Yisrael have. So there's two types of Ava. Ava, which is called the Tchar, Zachar. There's Ava, which is called Nekeva. What is Avarabba? Avarabba is such a love that's mili v'shamayim imcha lechafatzti. Pirush afilu masheimcha bekarev lecha. So hastes that Ava of mili v'shamayim imcha lechafatzti is an Ava which brings out he doesn't want anything else besides the Eibishter. What's imcha mekor chayim refers to one level. The imcha mekor chayim is a level of elikus, which is chay elam haba. V'taynig elikish nimshach neshamas began eden lisanig elavaya machmas hasagasav askalasam. So that's a level that's attained by the neshama in Gan Eden. B'hasaga v'haskala muflas ma'id. But im kol zeh, with all the hasaga, that the neshama, the grasping that the neshama has in this tainug, is ein hasaga zumagas al b'chines imcha. So all of that is only a level of imcha. That's a level which is tafel ubatel of etzlacha, but not the Eibishter himself. Kiles machshavet v'isa beiklam. So with all the hasaga and haskala, it only reaches a level of imcha. El hasagasa v'china ziva shchina, ziva arabalma. V'yilazois imcha lechafatzti. So even though it's a tainuk, it's a tremendous pleasure, but nevertheless, imcha lechafatzti. What is the Ava? The Ava is not to that. Not the yearning is not to a level of where there can be a saga, where it's grasped. But the level is imcha lechafatzti avarabi libatu l'kol b'rintzei baruch hu mamish. It's called in Zoya lishtava begufa de malka, to be completely absorbed, to completely be to surrender completely to the malka, to the Eibishter. Which is much higher than the Ava, which is connected with the Ziv and Ha'ara, which is the Ava, which is a result of a level of Asaga, which is a grasp, when a person grasps a level of Elikus, which which is the lower level of Ava. So even though there's a Tainuk, and the fact that he grasps it, but nevertheless it's limited, it's finite. There's a certain limitation. So that's why the Ava, which is the imcha lechafatzti, in other words, it's a completely bottle to the Eibishter, so that's called Ava Rabba. So the Akam shebechinazu yavshali yisodar cheshu enen miziv, even though you can have the appreciation in that level, the level of imcha lechafatzti, you can't have it in the same way of Yeshiv V'nenin, that he benefits from the Ziv, Kim Adarabah. V'chinas bitul v'metzias, v'kebitul v'izgalus haner ba'avoka. So here you have the person is batul v'metzias completely, like the candle which is batul into the light of the torch. Afal pikein, nevertheless, zer etzina v'chefza. This is the desire of the neshama. This level of avarabba is these battle the mohusi v'atzmusei, v'leisnen and rak miziv. So this nen and rak miziv, that's something that he can appreciate, he can grasp. But nevertheless, being that he realizes that this is only a ziv, So the ava brings him to a level of the yearning brings him to a level of complete ispatus, complete oneness, and to completely be absorbed by the avuka. The ner should be completely absorbed by the avuka. And this is the level of zachar. So
door's locked, I can't open it, but we do need two more for a minute.
Okay.
And we have someone saying Kaddish from out of town.
So there's two, that's the level of zachar, as opposed to the level of nekeva, which is the lower level of ava, as we'll explain soon. As we'll explain, the Alter Rebbe explains the continuation of the Maimer.